Hi, I am Tamara Pearl, psychotherapist and registered clinical counselor in British Columbia, Canada. And in this video, I'm going to suggest some questions that you can ask yourself and the drawing after you finish it. This can be used for, I think, any of the exercises on this page. I'm going to use the word drawing, but you may have made a painting or a collage or any kind of three-dimensional form. You may have made a sculpture. You may have used clay. So first, look at the drawing and just take it in and write what you see. So write some descriptive words like adjectives. And what I'm going to do is just pause very briefly after I suggest each thing to write, but you might want to pause the video if you have more to write. And initially, I suggest writing 3 adjectives. And then after that, after you've written kind of what you see, take a moment and check into how you feel when you look at it. And you can, again, write some words that describe how you feel when you look at this drawing. Next, you can jot down any associations that come to mind, anything that it reminds you of. Then you can write down what you noticed about the process of doing it. So when you did it, were there any challenges? Were there any surprises in making the art itself? Often people are surprised by something. What part of the picture or the drawing that you like best? And you might jot down a few words about what you like about it. And then notice the part of the drawing that you like least and write down what you don't like about it. Just sense into what each of those parts bring up to you in terms of what do you feel, what kind of sensations come up in the part that you like best and the part that you like least. Next, you might want to think of a title for this piece. So if you were to title it, what would you title it? Often thinking of a title can be challenging, but it also crystallizes and sums up something about the drawing or the experience. So those are some questions that you can ask yourself about the drawing. And now I'm going to suggest some questions that you can actually ask the drawing itself. And when you ask the drawing a question, you pose the question and you connect to the feeling of the question. You pose the question to the drawing, and then you wait. And you just open yourself to any kind of answer that might happen. It might happen in words. You might hear something in your head. It might happen in an image that you see. It might happen in a memory. It can happen in any kind of way, or there might be no answer, and that's okay too. So here's some questions that you can ask the drawing. What would the drawing say if it could talk? And you can ask this about the whole drawing, or you can ask about a part of the drawing or a certain mark. What would that mark say if it could talk? You can ask the drawing, what does it need from you? And it's also interesting to ask, what do you need from it? You can experiment with speaking from parts of the drawing. So the drawing might say, I have many red circles and I feel unfinished, or something like that. Or I am strong and, dark in certain part of the painting, or I am, alive and excited. See if you can let the drawings express itself. And then you could dialogue with the painting. And there's many ways to do that. We've been doing that with words, but you could also do that with writing. So you could write a question, and sometimes people like to use one hand for writing the question, usually their dominant hand, and then their non-dominant hand for answering. So you could do that, go back and forth. If there's really a part that you don't understand, and maybe this represents part of your journey that you don't understand, you might connect to your more intuitive side by using your non-dominant hand to write answers to questions that your dominant hand is posing. You could create a movement or a dance or a sound that expresses the colors and lines or the shape of a part of the drawing or the whole drawing. You might ask if there's anything else that the drawing would like to tell you. You might just make up a story about the elements of the drawing, kind of separate it from the journey, the part of the journey you were representing with the drawing, and just look at the drawing itself and make up a story. And sometimes this loosening up of our logical brain and when we allow ourselves to make these associations and creative associations through sound, through movement, through dance, through telling a story, we can get some insight that we wouldn't have previously had. At the end, you can reflect. What did I learn? What did I learn from doing this? What did I learn from reflecting and interacting with it? I'm just going to give another method to work with if you had a difficult journey or a difficult part of the drawing that's hard to look at, for example, using Tara Brach's RAIN technique. And you can look that up on the internet, RAIN, it's her acronym, and what she suggests. So I'm going to adapt it here for using art. So the first letter R stands for recognize. So just recognize, how does this part show up for you? How does it feel to you? How do you experience it? What are the body sensations? What are your impulses that go along with looking at this part of the drawing? What are your thoughts that go along with this part of the drawing when you look at it? The second step is accept. So how do you feel towards that part? And what's your relationship with it? And see if you can be curious towards it and give it space to be what it is. See if you can view it with compassion. If you need more distance from it, you can put it further away. The next letter, the letter I, stands for investigate. So this is where you can get to know what the part's role is within your system. So this emotion or sensation or felt sense, what is it trying to accomplish for you? What's its goal? Maybe it's a protective part that's trying to protect you, and maybe the way it's trying to protect you isn't comfortable, but its underlying goal is protection. So you could ask that part of the painting or the drawing, you might ask, what is it afraid might happen if it didn't do what it's currently doing to protect you? You might ask if there's any memories associated with it. You could ask when this sensation or feeling first appeared in your life. So this is where you're just exploring it and seeing what you can learn about it. And then the last letter is N for nourish. So you might ask what it needs to hear from you, what it needs to know, or what might be nourishing for it, or what might be nourishing for you as you look at this difficult part. You could ask, what would it look like or feel like if it was all healed? And then you can ask, what's in the way of that? What's a good small step in the right direction? And what would it need to do to transform? You could even ask your heart for an image or a symbol or something that could transform that for you. So these are just some ways to work with images, and there are many more, and I will intersperse other ways in the next videos that have concrete exercises to do for preparation and integration for psychedelic journeys. Thank you for listening.